Welcome back to Newsroom. I'm Chella Smith, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news here on YouTube. I air on Fridays and I bring you the latest on reforms and economics based on reports put out by the Middle East news media outlets. I do this weekly review and it's based off my interests. Thank you everyone for joining me. It's been wonderful to be back in the studio. I've had a fabulous vacation, spent a lot of time with my family, fishing, putting my feet into the sand on beautiful beaches. I ate great food. I listened to wonderful music. The scenery was absolutely incredible. We witnessed lots of dolphin actions. I feel extremely recharged and blessed to be back. We have a lot of news to cover since I've been gone, so no economic news shall be left behind. Let's get started right away. Airspace Baghdad. Magazine News reports Ministry of Transports explained that the reason for the increase in air traffic over in Iraq, while stressing that the Federal Aviation considers Iraqi airspace safe and valid for international companies. The number of aircraft transiting Iraqi airspace reached to more than 450 aircrafts per day compared to the same period last year, which was 250 aircrafts, after the FAA, through multiple meetings, announced by it the lifting of the NOTAM pilots. Announcements of the Iraqi airspace, considering the high altitudes of above 32,000 feet as safe and sustainable for passengers and the transit of international airlines in the Iraqi airspace. Baghdad Magazine News reports Al Rashid Bank announced the launch of the new meal from the credit card advance granted to employees. The bank stated that this advance is granted to the credit card holders, according to which the beneficiary receives an amount 3 times the salary, with a maximum limit of 5 million dinars. The bank called on all employees wishing to obtain it to apply through Al Rashid Bank's application process. Shafak News reports the Central Bank of Iraq's sales of hard currencies to the U.S. dollar approached $1 billion in the week of April 17th. The increase in the bank's total sales came as a result of some of its dollar exchange sales exceeding $200 million per day. Correspondents indicated that the most of the sales went in the form of remittance abroad to finance foreign trade, while the selling price of the dollar transferred to banking accounts abroad, in addition to cash sales amounting to 1460 dinars per dollar. Economy News Baghdad reports the Association of the Iraqi Private Bank organized concepts of renewable energy in Iraq to achieve the principles of transitioning towards a green economy. In the presence of the Minister of Environment, Chairman of the Investment Authorities, and the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. The ministry has been working with the Central Bank for several months on its national initiative to support electricity through solar energy and the transition towards a green economy. Noting that renewable energy in the next economy, saying that they're calling on all businessmen and investors to a more serious outlook towards the green economy. The central bank provided a necessary funds to invest in energy, calling on international and local companies to invest in the central bank's initiative to establish solar power plants. The investment authorities is ready to support all environmentally friendly projects, and that Iraq is promising environment in the fields, but provides that these projects are technical advanced and capable of achieving profit and protecting the environment at the same time. The central bank has decided that the loans granted with the Administration Commission only targets all housing and business sectors, noting that the establishment of this solar energy system will contribute to improving the environment and reducing risk. The device of standardization and quality control will carry out the task of examining the devices that traders will import from outside of Iraq. Baghdad Magazine News reports the finance minister, Ali Alawi, confirmed that Iraq is unable to increase oil exports in response to high global oil prices and the supply disruptions related to Russia, because it's clearly committed to the agreements mandated by the OPEC. Ali said during a visit to Washington, while Iraq benefits from the high oil prices occurred by the Russian-Ukraine war, the costs of the conflicts are significant, including higher prices for fertilizers, wheat, and other basic commodities. Earth News reports the economic advisor to the Prime Minister, Chalet, confirms that the current year budget will be expansionary, while noting that there are two types of spending in it. Chalet told Earth News that the draft general budget law for 2022 is still a non-final draft and it is not presented to Parliament or to the government until the present time. And the oil market developments are significant, noting that there are repercussions of the rise of the emergency law for food security and development. Chalet expects that the direction for the budget, if approved, will be expansionary budget with a lower deficit and in the areas that affect development and employment more and are proportional to the growth rate that exceeds the population growth rate by double the rate completely. It is noteworthy that the year 2022 did not approve its budget due to the parliamentary elections that Iraq witnessed at the end of last year and the subsequent blockage in the political process due to the difference in opinions between blocs about the mechanisms of forming their government. Baghdad Magazine News reports the Minister of Finance, Ali Alawi, confirms Iraq's aspirations for the supportive international role in the implementation of programs, including the white papers. And while stressing that the country is not in dire need of financial support at the present time, that he announced that the government's aspirations to expand the tripartite cooperation with Egypt and Jordan for the stage of common markets and other programs. Alawi says in his speech on the sidelines of the spring meeting of the banks of the International Monetary Fund in Washington that the main purpose of the visit to Washington and the participation in the meetings with the integrated teams from Ministry of Finance and major banks is to strengthen and deepen their relationships with international agencies. He also adds that the team is in talks with the U.S. Treasury as they are some important and outstanding issues that are not related to the U.S. financial support because, fortunately, he says we don't urgently need financial support now, but we need more technical assistance and moral support for our reform program, which has been completed, including in it we call the white papers. He adds, I do not expect to continue or conclude any major economic agreement with the United States because we have the Strategic Framework Agreement and we are satisfied with it. And we will welcome the continuation of the American support for economic development of Iraq. But the focus now is more on what we call programs and plans instead of money. He also says what we need is a revaluation in our financial management and our understanding of the strategic issues and the economic issues facing the country. Adding, we have missed many opportunities that would have pulled the country out of poor economic performance, and that Iraq probably has missed the equivalence of 50 years of progress economically. Shafak News reports the Energy Information Administration, the EIA, data shows that Iraq did not export any oil to the United States the prior week. The top three sources continue for the U.S. imports. Oils are Canada, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. Iraq is the second largest crude oil producer in the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, after Saudi Arabia. It holds the world's fifth largest proven crude oil reserves. In addition, most of Iraq's major known fields, all of which are located onshore, are producing or are in development. Shafak News then reports the International Monetary Fund expects Iraq's GDP growth will reach 9% 6.5%, and an annual inflation will reach 6.9 during the year 2022. The fund said in a schedule it is issued for the month of April. It is expected that Iraq's domestic GDP, which placed it under the category of oil exporting countries, will grow by 9.5% and 5.7% for 2022 and 23, respectively, exceeding all Arab oil producing and non-oil producing countries, indicating that the GDP growth for 2021. The fund indicated that it is expected that Iraq's current account balance will reach 15.8% and 10.1% during 2022 and 2023, respectively, up from 5.9% in 2021. Funds experts expected that the GDP growth rate for the Middle East and Central Asia will be 4.6 in 2022 and 3.7 in 23, and the annual inflation for the same region is expected to reach 12.8% in 22 and 10.5% in 2023. A positive current account balance indicates that the country is a net leader to the rest of the world, while a negative current account balance indicates that it is the net borrower from the rest of the world. And a current account surplus increases the country's net foreign assets by the amount of the surplus, and the current account deficit reduces that amount. We have a significant amount of news to go over between all week's miss, so I will be breaking this up into two parts, making this part one of this week's Newsroom Weekly Review, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news on reforms and economics. I try to bring you all the latest Dinar news without having to keep up with all the different outlets. You've been watching Chella Smith Newsroom here on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like my content, give me a thumbs up. Shout out to Currency365 for his continued support. If you want to learn about stocks and cryptos while waiting on the Iraqi dinar to revalue or reinstitute, you can join him and his crew for the most recent updates. You can find him on YouTube or Patreon. Again, we have a lot of news. I'll be breaking it up into two parts. This is part one. I'll see you again in part two. Take care. Make sure you join us Fridays, 4 p.m. with Newsroom Updates with Chella Smith Entertainment News.